Standing before the Great Pyramid, you might feel like you are seeing a tomb, but you are actually reading a message carved in stone and aligned with the stars. For centuries, we have misunderstood the true genius of ancient builders who encoded celestial secrets into their monuments. This journey uncovers 28 hidden codes, from the Egyptian desert to the English plains, that rewrite the story of ancient astronomy entirely. By the end, you will see these stone giants not as silent ruins, but as a lost language of cosmic knowledge. We will explore why a temple in Turkey built before agriculture might be an observatory, and how a pyramid in Mexico perfectly mirrors one in Egypt. These are not random acts of construction, but a sophisticated science that challenges our entire historical timeline. What does it mean when the oldest structures on Earth point directly to the heavens? The language of these stones is not written in words but in lines of sight and celestial geometry. Monument alignments are the foundational grammar of this ancient code. Picture a massive stone circle like Stonehenge. On the longest day of the year, the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over a specific stone, casting a beam of light into the heart of the monument. This is not a lucky accident. It is the result of precise, deliberate planning, an architectural handshake with the heavens. This phenomenon repeats across the globe. The Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned with near-perfect precision to the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. The entire city of Teotihuacan in Mexico is laid out on a grid that mirrors specific astronomical patterns. These are all examples of architecture astronomy, a practice where buildings themselves become permanent, unblinking observatories. They are stone calendars and cosmic clocks, designed to mark the passage of time, the changing of seasons, and the cycles of stars. For early cultures, this was the most durable way to encode their deepest understanding of the universe. They were writing their knowledge directly onto the Earth itself, ensuring it would last for millennia. This foundational concept is the master key, and with it in hand, we can now unlock the very first of our 28 revelations. This alignment with Orion's belt is not a perfect mirror image. There is a deliberate offset, a slight imperfection that holds the real key. The three pyramids are arranged to match the three stars not in their current position, but as they would have appeared in the sky above Giza around 10,500 years before the Common Era. This is the shocking core of the Orion correlation theory. It proposes that the builders encoded a phenomenon known as precession into the very foundations of their most sacred site. Precession is the slow, grand wobble of the Earth's axis, like a spinning top slowly winding down. This wobble takes about 26,000 years to complete a single cycle, gradually shifting our perspective of the starry vault. To notice this shift requires not just centuries but millennia of precise observation. The fact that the Giza Plateau seems to encode this knowledge suggests the ancient Egyptians, or perhaps a far older civilization they inherited from, were not just stargazers but master astronomers who tracked celestial movements across timescales almost incomprehensible to us. The pyramids then become more than tombs. They transform into a permanent marker in the desert, a stone timestamp freezing a specific moment in the vast cycle of the cosmos. This idea of a time capsule pointing to an epoch of observation lost to history is a thread we will see woven into monuments across the world. That deliberate offset in the pyramids points to an awareness of deep time, a concept that seems to echo across ancient cultures. Yet another monument, standing on the windswept Salisbury Plain in England, reveals a different but equally profound celestial obsession. Stonehenge is famous for its alignment with the summer solstice sun, but its true astronomical genius is actually lunar. Beyond the well-known solar calendar lies a secret tied to a much slower, more complex rhythm of the moon. Approximately every 18.6 years, the moon does not simply rise and set in its usual path. It reaches an extreme point in the sky, a peak in its long cycle called a major lunar standstill. During this event, the moon appears to pause at the very limits of its travel, rising and setting at azimuths it will not reach again for another generation. The builders of Stonehenge did not miss this. They encoded it into the very fabric of their stone circle. The so-called station stones and the ring of Aubrey holes that surround the main monument are not random features. They form a precise geometric framework designed to frame the moon's position during this rare standstill. This is not basic sky watching. Tracking an 18.6-year cycle requires meticulous, multi-generational record keeping. It suggests a priesthood or a school of astronomers who passed this precise knowledge down for centuries. This allowed them to do something astonishing: predict eclipses. By understanding the complex dance between the sun and moon at these extreme points, they could foresee when the Earth's shadow would fall upon the moon or when the moon would blot out the sun. This knowledge transforms Stonehenge from a simple calendar into a sophisticated astronomical computer, hinting at a powerful lunar cult that saw profound meaning in the moon's slow, majestic wobble across the heavens. But the moon's slow dance was not the only celestial rhythm ancient cultures sought to capture. Far from the green plains of England, in the stark, arid desert of Peru, an even more enigmatic message was drawn on a colossal scale. The Nazca lines are a series of gigantic geoglyphs, vast figures of spiders, monkeys, and hummingbirds, alongside immense straight lines and geometric shapes etched into the desert floor. From the ground, they are mere shallow grooves, but from the air, their true grandeur is revealed. For decades, the prevailing mystery was how they were made and why. The answer may not be found by looking down at them, but by looking up. These immense drawings may be a giant star map, a terrestrial mirror of the heavens. Specific long, arrow-straight lines have been found to align precisely with the setting points of particularly bright stars and constellations that held deep significance for the Nazca culture. These alignments were not random. They corresponded to the wet season, a critical time for agriculture and survival in the harsh desert environment. The giant animal figures themselves might be more than just artistic symbols. The distinctive spider glyph, for instance, is believed by some researchers to represent the constellation we know as Orion, while the monkey could mirror a different star pattern in the Nazca cosmovision. This transforms the entire desert plateau from a mysterious art gallery into a functional astronomical instrument. Instead of runways for ancient astronauts, these lines were likely ceremonial pathways. People would have walked along them during specific rituals timed by the stars, physically connecting with the cosmic order. The desert floor became a giant calendar, where the movement of a star along a stone line marked the time for planting, for rain ceremonies, for communing with the gods. It was a living, breathing observatory where the sky above and the earth below were inseparably linked. The Nazca people walked with the stars, but the builders of Angkor Wat replicated the entire cosmos in stone and water. In the dense jungles of Cambodia, this sprawling temple complex is far more than an architectural marvel. It is a perfect scale model of the Hindu universe. Its 5 iconic central towers are not just decorative spires, they represent the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the sacred mountain believed to be the center of all creation, the axis around which the universe spins. Surrounding the temple, an immense moat does not merely serve as a defensive barrier, it is the primordial cosmic ocean from which all life emerged. This grand design was a deliberate act of world building, an attempt to bring the divine blueprint of the heavens down to earth. The true genius of Angkor Wat, however, is not just in its static symbolism but in its dynamic interaction with the sky. The temple's architects engineered it to align with celestial events that brought this model universe to life. On the spring equinox, a day of perfect balance between light and dark, observers are treated to a breathtaking spectacle. The sun rises in precise alignment directly over the central tower, crowning the symbolic Mount Meru with a halo of light. This annual event transforms the temple from a silent monument into a functioning celestial clock, marking a pivotal moment in the agricultural and ritual calendar. But the alignments extend beyond the sun to the realm of the stars. The entire ground plan of Angkor Wat, with its long causeways and carefully positioned structures, appears to mirror the stars of the Draco constellation. Draco, the dragon, was seen in many ancient traditions as a celestial serpent coiled around the pole of the sky, a guardian of the cosmic axis. By mapping this constellation onto their temple, the Khmer Empire was anchoring their sacred geography to the seemingly unchanging northern heavens, creating a permanent link between the earthly and the divine. This fusion of astronomy, hydrology, and theology created a living, breathing sacred landscape. The sophisticated hydraulic system of canals and reservoirs, which managed water for a massive population, was not just an engineering feat, it was a cosmological act. It mirrored the celestial order, ensuring that the life-giving monsoons and the rhythms of the seasons, governed by the stars, were reflected in the flow of water through their city. Angkor Wat was a machine for living in harmony with the universe, where every sunrise, every star, and every drop of water reinforced the connection between the king, the gods, and the cosmic order. That same profound need to capture the sun's power is etched into a grassy Irish mound older than the pyramids themselves. Newgrange is a massive, circular passage tomb built over 5,000 years ago, a silent sentinel in the Boyne Valley. Its most astonishing feature is not its size or age, but a small, seemingly insignificant opening above the main entrance known as the roof box. This narrow slit was no architectural afterthought. It was a precision-engineered celestial trigger. For the entire year, the inner chamber of the tomb remains in deep, impenetrable darkness. But on the morning of the winter solstice, the shortest, darkest day of the year, something miraculous happens. As the sun crests the horizon, a single, razor-thin beam of light penetrates through the roof box. This shaft of sunlight does not simply fall on the entrance. It travels with perfect accuracy down the 60-foot-long passageway, a journey that takes exactly 17 minutes, until it finally strikes the rear wall of the central chamber, flooding the sacred space with a golden light. This was not a happy accident. The builders calculated the angle of the passage and the height of the opening with incredible precision, an achievement that would have required generations of solar observation. The symbolism is overwhelming. At the moment of the sun's greatest weakness, they engineered its dramatic rebirth deep within the earth, linking the cycles of the cosmos directly to the realm of the ancestors buried within the mound. It was a powerful statement of belief in renewal, a promise that even in the deepest darkness, the light would always return. This mastery of solar alignment for both practical and spiritual purposes demonstrates a sophisticated knowledge that was clearly shared across the ancient world. While the outer alignment of the pyramids points to a vast cosmic clock, the true celestial intent is locked deep within the Great Pyramid itself. Inside the massive stone structure lie two main chambers, known as the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber. Each room contains narrow, rectangular shafts, just wide enough for a person to crawl through, that angle upwards through the pyramid's core. For a long time, many believed these were simply ventilation shafts, a practical solution for builders working deep inside the monument. But this explanation never quite fit. The shafts are incredibly difficult to construct, penetrating hundreds of feet of solid masonry at precise angles, and some were sealed off from the chambers entirely. Their true purpose is far more profound. These are not air vents but star shafts. Advanced astronomical research has confirmed that these narrow tunnels are precisely targeted at key celestial bodies. The southern shaft from the king's chamber points directly toward the constellation of Orion, which the Egyptians associated with Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. At the same time, the northern shaft aims for the circumpolar stars, the stars that never set, which were linked to eternal life. Specifically, it targeted the star Thuban, which was the North Star around the time the pyramid was built, 2,500 years before the Common Era. The Queen's Chamber shafts reveal a similar pattern, with one aligning with the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, sacred to the goddess Isis. This transforms our understanding of the pyramid's function. These shafts were not for the living but for the dead. They were spiritual conduits designed to guide the soul of the pharaoh on its journey to the stars. The architecture served a direct theological purpose, creating a physical pathway for the king's spirit to ascend from his burial chamber and join the immortal gods in the night sky. This intimate connection between stone and star shows that ancient astronomy was not just about marking time, it was about mapping the very geography of the afterlife. The soul's ascent through the star shafts of Giza represents one form of celestial architecture, a journey directed inward and upward. Yet another civilization chose to build its astronomical dialogue not within enclosed spaces, but atop the very spine of the world. Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas, clings to a mountain ridge in the Peruvian Andes, a place where architecture and nature are fused into a single sacred expression. Here, the Incas did not merely construct buildings, they choreographed a conversation between stone and sky, earth and star. Central to this dialogue is the Intihuatana stone, an exquisitely carved granite pillar whose name translates to the hitching post of the sun. This was no idle metaphor. During the solstices, the Incas performed ceremonies where the sun appeared to rest perfectly upon this stone, as if tethered to the earth, preventing it from continuing its journey into the long darkness of winter. This precise alignment allowed priests to mark the critical turning points of the year with unwavering accuracy. But the true secret of Machu Picchu's astronomy lies beyond this single stone. The entire city is a three-dimensional observatory. The Incas viewed the surrounding peaks, the Apus, not as mere geological features but as living, sacred deities. They engineered specific sightlines from the Intihuatana so that an observer would look across the sacred plaza toward a notch between two distant mountain peaks. Through that precise natural window, they could track the rising of the Pleiades star cluster. For the Inca, the clarity of the Pleiades in the pre-dawn sky was a direct predictor of the coming rainy season and the success of the harvest. This integration is staggering. A carved stone in the city center, a corridor of architecture, a frame of distant mountains, and a specific star group all worked in concert. The observatory was not just the stone itself, but the entire landscape. It was a living calendar where the heavens spoke through the mountains, guiding an empire from its sky-high sanctuary. That same architectural choreography of light and shadow appears in the jungles of the Yucatan, where a pyramid becomes a living god twice a year. The Great Pyramid of El Castillo at Chichen Itza stands as a silent, nine-stepped monument for most of the year. But on the spring and autumn equinoxes, as the sun sets, a transformation occurs. The sun's angled rays strike the northwest corner of the pyramid, casting a series of triangular shadows down the grand staircase. These interlocking shadows connect with the stone serpent heads at the base, creating the unmistakable illusion of a giant, undulating serpent slithering down from the heavens to the earth. This is the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, making his divine descent in a spectacle of light and stone. The real secret, however, is not just the visual effect itself, but the incredible mathematical precision that makes it possible. The pyramid is a perfect solar calendar rendered in stone. Each of its 4 sides has 91 steps. When you add them together, you get 364. The final step, the platform at the very summit, acts as the 365th step, completing a full solar year. This means the very act of climbing the pyramid is a symbolic journey through the entire year. The builders did not just align the structure with the sun, they embedded the fundamental cycle of time into its physical dimensions. The Equinox serpent is not merely a light show, it is the climax of this calendar, the moment when the sun's position, the pyramid's geometry, and the cultural narrative of a god's return all converge into a single, breathtaking event. It is a perfect fusion of astronomy, mathematics, and theology, turning a static building into a dynamic, ticking clock that celebrates the cosmic balance. While the feathered serpent of Chichen Itza marks the balance of the year, another mystery lies across the Atlantic, one measured not in light but in stone and precise distance. In the windswept region of Brittany, France, stand the Karnak alignments, a staggering collection of over 3,000 megaliths arranged in parallel rows that stretch for miles. Walking among these ancient stones is like navigating a petrified army, a silent grid of granite sentinels whose purpose has baffled observers for centuries. The secret hidden in their arrangement is not a dramatic alignment with a solstice sun, but something far more fundamental, a unit of measure. Researchers discovered that the spacing between the stones was not random. It was based on a precise, repeating standard now known as the megalithic yard, a unit of approximately 2.72 feet. This measurement appears again and again, from the stone circles of Britain to the great tombs of Ireland. But where did this standard come from? The most compelling theory is that it was derived from the Earth itself. It is proposed that the megalithic yard represents a specific fraction of the planet's polar circumference, calculated by observing the movement of the stars. This means the builders of Karnak may have possessed a sophisticated understanding of the size and shape of our world, encoding that planetary knowledge into the very gaps between their stones. This was not just a local measuring stick, it was a universal standard, suggesting a shared scientific language among the megalithic cultures of ancient Europe. The alignments, therefore, are more than a ceremonial site. They are a vast, open-air ledger of a forgotten geodesy, a testament to a civilization that measured the heavens to define their place on the earth. The silent geometry of Karnak speaks a language of earthly measurement, but on the other side of the world, an entire city was designed as a celestial mirror. The ancient metropolis of Teotihuacan in Mexico presents a puzzle from the moment you see its grand central avenue. This is the Street of the Dead, a vast roadway flanked by massive pyramids that runs for miles. If you were to pull out a compass expecting it to point directly north, you would be surprised. The entire city grid is deliberately skewed, aligned not to true north but 15.5 degrees east of it. This was no surveying error by a master builder. It was a deliberate targeting system aimed at the heavens. This specific orientation points directly to the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster on the horizon. In Mesoamerican cosmology, the Pleiades were not just a group of stars, they were profoundly sacred, known as the Seven Machu, or directly associated with the cycles of creation and the agricultural calendar. Their appearance and disappearance in the night sky marked critical times for planting and harvest. By aligning their entire sacred city to this star cluster, the builders of Teotihuacan were grounding their world in the cosmic order. The Street of the Dead becomes more than a processional route. It is a terrestrial echo of a celestial pathway. The pyramids along its length, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, are not randomly placed. They form key points in this vast diagram, creating a scaled map of the cosmos where the gods themselves were believed to walk. This turns the city into a living, breathing astronomical instrument where every building and street reinforces a connection to the stars. Yet the mysteries of Teotihuacan reach even further. The base perimeter of the Pyramid of the Sun is nearly identical to that of the Great Pyramid of Giza. This numerical coincidence is too precise to be easily dismissed. It suggests that both cultures, separated by an ocean and thousands of years, may have arrived at the same sophisticated mathematical and geometric principles independently. Or it hints at the possibility of a shared, much older source of knowledge that influenced monument builders across the globe. In either case, Teotihuacan stands as a testament to a universal human impulse to build heaven on earth, encoding celestial truths into the very streets we walk. High on a sun-baked cliff in Chaco Canyon, a secret clock of light and shadow has been ticking for nearly 1,000 years. This is Fajada Butte, and on its sheer face, the ancestral Puebloan people engineered one of the most elegant and fragile astronomical instruments ever created. Behind 3 massive, carefully positioned stone slabs, they carved 2 intricate spiral petroglyphs into the rock face. For most of the year, these carvings sit in relative shadow. But on the longest day of the year, the summer solstice, a sliver of sunlight penetrates the narrow gaps between the slabs. This beam does not simply fall upon the larger spiral. It strikes it with the precision of a laser, forming a brilliant dagger of light that slices directly down the center of the coil. On the shortest day, the winter solstice, the effect reverses, with 2 distinct shafts of light appearing to perfectly bracket the same spiral on either side. This was their sun dagger, a breathtakingly simple yet incredibly accurate solar calendar that required no moving parts, only an intimate understanding of the sun's changing path across the sky. The genius of this design is its non-intrusive nature. The builders did not construct a monument. They adapted the existing landscape, using the natural architecture of the cliff to frame the celestial event. But this secret holds a deeper, more sobering lesson. In the late 20th century, researchers noticed the alignment was no longer perfect. The delicate balance of the slabs had been subtly disturbed, possibly by the very act of studying them or by natural erosion. A shift of just a few millimeters was enough to distort the dagger of light, blurring its perfect form. This fragility reveals a profound truth about all ancient alignments. They are not permanent fixtures but snapshots, capturing a precise celestial relationship at a single moment in a vast geological and astronomical timeline. The sun dagger is a frozen moment, a whisper from the past that reminds us these cosmic clocks are set for a specific era, and their perfect time may eventually run out. The whisper of prophecy at Delphi was not born from faith alone, but from a powerful synergy of earth and sky. For centuries, pilgrims climbed the sacred way to the temple of Apollo, seeking answers from the Pythia, the priestess who breathed in vapors from a chasm in the rock and spoke with the voice of the god. Those vapors, we now know, were likely ethylene gas rising from geological faults, a natural intoxicant that induced her trance state. Yet the true secret of the oracle's power may have been written in the stars above, not just the gases below. The entire sanctuary was meticulously aligned. The path of the sacred way and the orientation of the temple itself are not random. They point toward the horizon where the constellation Delphinus, the dolphin, would rise. This celestial connection is profound. Apollo, the god of the oracle, was said to have first arrived at Delphi in the form of a dolphin. So when the constellation appeared in the night sky, it was not just a pattern of stars, it was the god himself returning to his shrine. This alignment suggests the most auspicious times for prophecy, when the Pythia would deliver her cryptic messages, may have been carefully scheduled to coincide with this celestial event or with key solar positions like the equinoxes. The Greeks were not merely building a temple on a geologically active site. They were constructing a cosmic receiver, a place where terrestrial energies, celestial timings, and human consciousness could converge. The prophecy was a product of this perfect alignment, a moment when the earth breathed, the stars signaled, and a mortal woman became a conduit for the divine. This integration of geology and astronomy reveals a world where the boundaries between science and spirituality were seamless, and the heavens directly guided the most important decisions of the ancient world. This architectural genius, frozen in time on the Mediterranean island of Malta, predates even the Great Pyramid by centuries. The Najdra temple complex is a collection of limestone structures, among the oldest free-standing buildings known to humanity. Its lower temple is a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering, a series of curved chambers and altars built with an almost impossible foresight. The main doorway is not simply an entrance, it is a celestial gun sight. On the 2 days of the year when day and night are of equal length, the spring and autumn equinoxes, the first light of dawn passes through this doorway with perfect accuracy. A single beam travels down a short corridor to strike a specific central stone slab, flooding it with light. The effect is reversed during the solstices. On the longest day, the summer solstice, the sun's rays illuminate only the left edge of this very same slab. On the shortest day, the winter solstice, the light shifts to precisely highlight its right edge. This is not a rough alignment. It is a triple calendar carved in stone, marking the 4 pivotal turning points of the solar year with breathtaking exactness. To achieve this required not just one generation of observation, but many, meticulously tracking the sun's slow migration along the horizon for centuries. The temple itself became an unerring clock, its silent stones dictating the rhythm of an entire society. The first beam of equinox light was likely a signal for planting. The solstice markers would have governed harvests and major religious ceremonies. This solar precision, locked in place over 5,000 years ago, points to a stable, complex society whose entire worldview, from food to faith, was orchestrated by the reliable movements of the sun. While the sun dagger of Chaco Canyon marked the seasons with silent precision, another civilization was building its own cosmic mountains to actively channel celestial power. The Babylonians, masters of the night sky, did not merely observe the stars, they meticulously catalogued them, creating the foundations of Western astronomy from the fertile plains of Mesopotamia. Their greatest architectural achievements, the towering ziggurats, were far more than temples. These massive stepped pyramids were believed to be literal stairways to heaven, representations of the cosmic mountain that linked the world of humans with the realm of the gods. The secret is that this connection was not just symbolic, it was engineered. The precise orientation of a ziggurat and the intricate rituals performed on its summit were choreographed in direct response to the celestial movements its priests had so carefully recorded. Take the legendary Etemenanke ziggurat in Babylon, the structure thought to have inspired the biblical story of the Tower of Babel. This colossal tower was dedicated to the god Marduk, the patron deity of Babylon, and its 7 tiers were not arbitrary. Each level was associated with a specific celestial body, the sun, the moon, and the 5 planets visible to the naked eye. the entire structure was likely aligned so that its corners or staircases pointed toward the rising or setting points of these key planets or important stars. This transformed the ziggurat into a colossal three-dimensional calendar and an astrological computer. When a priest climbed its stages to perform a ritual at the summit, he was not just ascending a building, he was retracing the cosmic order, moving through the spheres of the planets to commune with the divine. The rituals themselves were timed by the stars, ensuring that the power of the king and the fertility of the land were synchronized with the heavens. The ziggurat was therefore a direct conduit, an architectural machine designed to draw celestial power down to earth and project human devotion upward, a perfect fusion of faith and precise astronomical science. This architectural calendar in stone was not unique to the Maya, but they perfected it into a scientific standard. Across the humid lowlands of Mesoamerica, from the sprawling city of Tikal to the remote center of Uaxacton, archaeologists have uncovered a remarkably consistent architectural blueprint. These are the E-group complexes, the ancient world's most elegant and widespread solar observatories. The design is deceptively simple. A long, low platform stretches along the western side of a ceremonial plaza. Directly opposite, on the eastern side, stand three distinct structures. The secret lies in the sightline from the western platform. An observer standing there on the morning of an equinox would see the sun rise directly over the central eastern structure. But as the year progressed, the sun's rising point would shift along the horizon. On the summer solstice, it would crest the horizon aligned with the northernmost building. On the winter solstice, it would appear over the southernmost one. This three-point target system provided a foolproof, permanent calendar etched into the urban landscape. The true revelation of the E-groups is not their existence but their uniformity. This exact architectural formula was constructed and used for over 1,000 years, replicated from city to city across the vast Maya world. It was a shared scientific language, a testament to the supreme importance of tracking the solar year for agriculture, for scheduling rituals, and for legitimizing the rule of kings who claimed to communicate with the sun god. This was not a local custom, it was a cornerstone of an entire civilization's identity, proving that a precise understanding of celestial mechanics was as vital to their survival as water itself. Beneath the sunlit temples of Malta, the true astronomical theater lies hidden in darkness. The Ħal-Saflieni hypogeum is a labyrinthine underground necropolis, a world carved from solid limestone that descends 3 levels deep into the earth. For centuries, it was known as a burial site, a silent city of the dead. But its deepest secret is not what you see, but what you hear. Specific chambers within this subterranean complex are not random cavities. They are masterpieces of acoustic engineering. When a person speaks or chants inside the so-called oracle room, the sound does not simply echo, it resonates. The chamber is sculpted to amplify a specific, low-frequency sound wave around 110 Hz. At this precise frequency, something remarkable happens to the human brain. Scientific studies have shown that exposure to sound at 110 Hz can suppress activity in the language centers of the brain's left hemisphere, while simultaneously stimulating activity in the right hemisphere, which is associated with spatial perception, intuition, and trance-like states. This is not an echo, it is a technology, a built-in mechanism for shifting human consciousness. Now consider the timing. The hypogeum's builders were the same people who constructed the solar calendar temples like Najdra on the surface. It is a compelling theory that the underground rituals were not held at random. What if ceremonies were conducted in this resonant chamber during specific celestial events, like the solstices or equinoxes that were so precisely marked above ground? The sequence would be transformative. A community would witness the sun's perfect alignment at a surface temple, a public affirmation of cosmic order. Then a chosen few would descend into the hypogeum, in the absolute darkness, with the knowledge that the sun was at a sacred turning point overhead. They would begin to chant. The chamber would come alive, the resonant frequency washing over them, altering their brain activity, easing them into a collective trance. In this heightened state, the boundary between the living, the ancestors entombed in the walls, and the cosmos itself would blur into nothingness. The hypogeum was not just a tomb, it was the ultimate cosmic interface where architecture, acoustics, and astronomy merged to open a doorway in the mind. The silent resonance of the hypogeum reveals a world where sound and star were one, but in ancient China, an emperor sought to conquer death itself by burying the entire cosmos. The terracotta army is one of history's most breathtaking discoveries. Thousands of life-sized soldiers standing in silent formation to guard the tomb of the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. Yet these clay warriors are merely the outer sentinels. The true secret, the emperor's ultimate ambition, is believed to lie within the vast, still unexcavated central mound. Ancient Chinese historians wrote of a breathtaking spectacle sealed within the tomb. They described a ceiling inlaid with pearls and precious stones to form a perfect map of the night sky, a permanent celestial vault for the emperor to gaze upon. Below this starry firmament, the texts claim, the floor was a three-dimensional map of the emperor's unified realm, complete with rivers and oceans flowing not with water, but with shimmering, toxic mercury. This was not just a tomb, it was a meticulously crafted microcosm, a complete model of the universe built underground to ensure the emperor's power would extend seamlessly from his earthly kingdom into the afterlife. The army itself, arranged in precise military formation, may hold a further celestial clue. Their positioning might not simply reflect the order of a terrestrial battalion, but could mirror ancient Chinese astrological beliefs, perhaps aligning with the constellations that governed war, power, and the emperor's divine mandate. Each soldier, then, becomes more than a guard. He is a fixed star in a protective celestial diagram, ensuring the emperor's cosmic journey would be unchallenged as he took his place among the immortals. This grand design represents the ultimate expression of a belief we have seen across the ancient world, that the architecture of death must perfectly mirror the architecture of the heavens. Far from the grand pyramids and temples, the open plains of North America hold a quieter, yet equally profound celestial secret. Scattered across the vast landscapes from Canada down into Wyoming are enigmatic stone circles known as medicine wheels. At first glance, they appear as simple rings of stones with lines radiating outward like spokes on a wheel, but these are not the remains of ancient games or forgotten villages. They are sophisticated astronomical observatories built upon the very skin of the earth. The Bighorn Medicine Wheel, perched high on a mountain ridge in Wyoming, serves as a perfect example. Its structure is a masterclass in celestial alignment. Specific stones within the circle are not placed by chance. One key stone aligns perfectly with the horizon point where the sun rises on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. Another marks the sunrise on the winter solstice, but the alignments extend far beyond the sun. Other carefully positioned stones point toward the rising and setting locations of intensely bright stars like Sirius, the Dog Star, Aldebaran, the fiery eye of the Bull constellation, and Rigel, the brilliant foot of Orion. For the nomadic cultures of the plains, this knowledge was a matter of survival and spirituality. The summer solstice alignment did not just mark a date on a calendar. It signaled the time for the great buffalo hunts when the herds were at their peak. The appearance of a particular star like Aldebaran in the pre-dawn sky might indicate the moment to begin a seasonal migration to sheltered winter grounds. The medicine wheel was a central clock for community life, governing the timing of sacred ceremonies that honored the harmony between the people, the land, and the cosmos. This demonstrates a deep, practical astronomy, a knowledge system passed down through generations, written not on parchment but in the enduring language of stone against the endless sky. Deep within the dark, silent chambers of the Lascaux cave, the animal figures gallop and charge across the rock walls as they have for 17,000 years. We have always seen these masterpieces as a testament to hunting magic or shamanic ritual, a gallery of survival. But what if these paintings hold a much higher purpose? A growing number of researchers now propose a radical secret hidden in plain sight. They suggest that certain clusters of dots, painted alongside the majestic aurochs and horses, are not random decorations. They are a prehistoric star chart. The most compelling evidence lies in a specific section known as the shaft of the dead man. Here, a painted bird on a pole faces a wounded bison and a leaning man. Above them, a series of 6 distinct dots are arranged in a pattern that is strikingly familiar. This configuration matches the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker of critical importance to agricultural and seasonal cycles for countless ancient cultures. Even more astonishing, the great aurochs itself, with its prominent horns, is proposed to be a representation of the constellation Taurus, the bull, which the Pleiades cluster is a part of. If this interpretation is correct, it fundamentally rewrites the history of astronomy. It suggests that our Paleolithic ancestors were not just tracking animals on the ground, but were also meticulously mapping the heavens above. This was not a casual pastime. To recognize and record specific star patterns required a sophisticated understanding of the night sky, passed down through generations. The cave itself transforms from a simple sanctuary into a planetarium. In the absolute darkness, illuminated only by flickering torchlight, these painted stars would have glowed with an otherworldly life. The ceremonies held here would have connected the power of the animal spirits with the eternal cycles of the cosmos, a sacred knowledge painted in ochre and charcoal that predates the pyramids by more than 12,000 years. The animal spirits of Lascaux gave way to gods carved in stone, and in the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, a ceiling holds one of the most debated celestial maps ever discovered. This is the Dendera zodiac, a sprawling bas-relief that presents the constellations not as we see them today, but as they were arranged over 2,000 years ago. At first glance, it appears to be a typical Egyptian star chart, a familiar cast of characters from their mythology, but the secret is locked in the subtle positions of the figures. The entire circular chart is not a generic picture of the night sky. It is a precise snapshot, a celestial photograph frozen in stone. Analysis of the constellation placements suggests it accurately represents the sky as it would have been observed around 50 years before the Common Era. This in itself is a remarkable feat of astronomical recording, a deliberate act of preserving a specific moment in the cosmic cycle for posterity. Yet the true mystery runs much deeper. Look closely at the relationship between the symbols for the vernal equinox and the surrounding constellations. The spring equinox is the point where the sun crosses the celestial equator, and ancient cultures associated this pivotal moment with a specific zodiac constellation. Over centuries, due to the slow wobble of the Earth's axis known as precession, this equinox point drifts backward through the zodiac, spending about 2,160 years in each sign. The Dendera zodiac seems to capture this drift. Its arrangement hints that the Egyptian priests were aware that the equinox was slowly moving out of the constellation of Aries and into the next one, Pisces. This is the staggering implication that the Egyptians had mapped the grand 26,000-year cycle of precession long before the Greek astronomer Hipparchus, is traditionally credited with its discovery in the 2nd century before the Common Era. If correct, this single stone ceiling does not just depict the stars, it contains a sophisticated understanding of deep time, suggesting the temple was not merely a place of worship, but a repository of advanced astronomical knowledge that challenges the established timeline of scientific discovery. While the Dendera zodiac hints at a knowledge of precession, ancient Indian sages were documenting its effects with systematic precision. The Vedas, some of the oldest texts in the world, contain a body of astronomical science known as Vedanga Jyotisha, or the limb of the Veda that deals with light. This was not philosophy, it was a rigorous mathematical toolkit for timekeeping, created over 3,000 years ago. Its primary purpose was to fix the precise moments for rituals and sacrifices, which were believed to maintain the cosmic order itself. At the heart of this system was a lunar zodiac of 27 constellations, known as the nakshatras. Unlike the 12-sign solar zodiac familiar in the West, this system divided the path of the moon into 27 equal segments, each ruled by a specific star or star cluster. By tracking the moon's daily movement through these nakshatras, priests could create an incredibly accurate calendar. The true secret, however, is not just the existence of this system, but its profound longevity and the deep time observations it implies. The Vedanga Jyotisha contains clear references to the shifting of the equinoxes, the very same slow wobble of the Earth's axis that the Great Pyramid may encode. The texts describe a time when the winter solstice sun rose in the nakshatra of Mrigashira, a position that, due to precession, it has not occupied for thousands of years. Calculating this shift requires centuries, even millennia, of consistent celestial record-keeping. This suggests the Vedic tradition is the custodian of an unbroken thread of astronomical observation stretching back into a forgotten epoch. The rituals timed by these stars were not mere superstition. They were the practical application of a sophisticated science, weaving the eternal cycles of the cosmos directly into the spiritual and social life of one of humanity's most enduring cultures. The ruins of Puma Punku stand as a profound and unsettling mystery. Located high on the Bolivian Altiplano, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, this site is a field of shattered megaliths, a collection of stone blocks so perfectly cut they seem to defy the very tools available to its pre-Inca builders, the Tiwanaku culture. While other monuments shout their celestial alignments, Puma Punku whispers a more cryptic secret. Its stones are not arranged to frame a solstice sunrise or track a star. Instead, the secret is locked within the geometry of the stones themselves. The most famous components are the H-shaped blocks, carved from dense andesite with an almost machine-like precision. Their edges are razor-sharp, their surfaces flawlessly flat, and they interlock with a system of complex, compound angles that would challenge modern engineers. This is not simply advanced stonemasonry, it is a language of pure geometry. The layout of the entire complex, what remains of it, suggests a design based on precise ratios and mathematical constants. Some researchers propose that the angles found in these blocks, and the way they were meant to fit together, may have encoded astronomical measurements, perhaps representing the angles of certain celestial bodies or the proportions of cosmic cycles. It is a compelling theory that Puma Punku was not just a temple, but a three-dimensional diagram of a cosmological model, a physical representation of how its builders understood the universe to be structured. The extreme precision implies a knowledge of mathematics and engineering so advanced that its primary purpose, the celestial principle it was meant to embody, remains just beyond our grasp. The stones are a perfect key, but we have lost the lock. The geometric perfection of Puma Punku speaks a silent, complex language, but on a windswept Scottish island, the stones speak clearly of the moon. On the Isle of Lewis, the Callanish stones rise from the peat like a petrified forest, their long avenues of monoliths stretching out from a central circle in a stark cruciform pattern. At first glance, this ancient site seems to share a purpose with its southern cousin, Stonehenge. Indeed, it marks the sun, for at the summer solstice the sun rises directly over a distant hill, perfectly framed by one of the stone avenues. Yet this solar alignment is merely the overture to a far more intricate celestial symphony. The true secret of Callanish is not solar, but lunar. The entire complex, with its central circle and radiating lines of stone, functions as a colossal gun sight aimed at the most dramatic moments in the moon's long dance. Every 18.6 years, the moon reaches its major standstill, a point where it rises and sets at its most extreme southern position on the horizon. During this rare event, the moon appears to skim the southern sky, its path lower and longer than at any other time. The architecture of Callanish captures this phenomenon with breathtaking precision. From the center of the circle, an observer would see the full moon during a major standstill rise over the southern hills, its silvery light flooding directly down one of the stone avenues. Hours later, it would appear to set at the opposite end of another avenue, as if rolling along a stone-made track. This was no simple marker. Tracking this 18.6-year cycle required generations of unwavering observation, a sacred duty passed down through the ages. For an island people, this lunar focus was not abstract mythology, it was a matter of survival. The moon's gravitational pull governs the tides, and for a community dependent on the sea for food and travel, predicting the most extreme tidal surges and ebbs was crucial. The major standstill would have signaled periods of exceptionally high and low tides, dictating the best times for fishing, for harvesting shellfish, and for launching boats. Callanish was likely a center for a powerful lunar cult, where priests or priestesses used the stones to predict these vital cycles, weaving the rhythm of the cosmos directly into the daily life of the island. The stones stand not just as a calendar, but as a testament to a culture that lived by the silver light of the moon, its slow, majestic cycle written in granite across their landscape. From the silent stone circles of Callanish, we journey to a device that speaks with the whirring of gears. The Antikythera Mechanism was salvaged from the depths of the Mediterranean, a corroded lump of bronze and wood recovered from an ancient Greek shipwreck. For decades, it sat in a museum, a curiosity whose true nature was hidden under centuries of encrustation. Then, modern imaging technology peeled back the layers, revealing the secret inside. This was not a statue or a simple navigational tool. It was an ancient analog computer, a device of breathtaking complexity dating back to the 2nd century before the Common Era. Its intricate system of interlocking bronze gears was a miniature model of the cosmos, engineered to predict the movements of the heavens with staggering accuracy. By turning a hand crank, an operator could calculate the positions of the sun and the moon, track the phases of our lunar companion, and even forecast eclipses years in advance. Some researchers believe it could also model the irregular motions of the planets known to the ancients: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. This device is a physical manifesto of a revolutionary idea that the universe operates according to predictable mechanical laws. The ancient Greeks had taken their profound celestial knowledge, honed over centuries of observation, and they had mechanized it. They built a machine that could simulate time itself, turning the grand, seemingly mystical cycles of the cosmos into something you could hold in your hands and control with a simple turn of a knob. The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a lone, miraculous survivor, hinting at a level of technological sophistication we never imagined for its time. it forces us to wonder what other wonders of ancient science were lost to the sea or to the decay of centuries. This was not the beginning of their astronomical journey, but its dazzling pinnacle. The mechanical genius of the Antikythera Mechanism represents one extreme of ancient science, a compact, intricate model of the cosmos. But another approach existed, one that worked on a scale so vast it can only be fully appreciated from the air. In the Golan Heights, a sprawling, enigmatic structure known as Rujum el-Hiri, or the Wheel of the Giants, sprawls across the landscape. This is not a towering pyramid or a circle of standing stones. It is a massive, low-lying complex of 5 concentric stone circles, with walls taller than a person, connected by a web of radiating spoke-like walls. From the ground, it is a bewildering maze of basalt boulders, but from above, its geometric perfection is stunning. Built over 5,000 years ago, its purpose has long puzzled archaeologists. It shows no signs of being a fortress, a village, or a tomb. Its secret, like so many others, is written in the sky. The entire complex is a colossal solar marker. On the morning of the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, an observer standing at the center of the circles would witness a precise celestial event. The first rays of the rising sun would pass through a carefully constructed entrance in the outermost wall. This beam of light would then travel inward, channeled by the radial walls, to strike a specific central cairn of stones. This was no accident. It was a deliberate, grand-scale alignment designed to capture the power of the sun at its annual peak. What makes Rujum el-Hiri so remarkable is the culture that built it. This was not the work of a centralized, pyramid-building empire, but of a pastoral, likely semi-nomadic society. For a people dependent on herds of sheep and goats, the changing seasons were a matter of survival. The summer solstice was a critical turning point, signaling the end of the lush spring grazing and the beginning of the harsh, dry summer. This monumental calendar in stone provided the ultimate communal signal. It was a place where scattered tribes would gather for ceremonies that honored the sun, marked the time for moving their herds to new pastures, and reinforced social bonds. The Wheel of the Giants proves that the impulse to build permanent celestial markers was not confined to agricultural empires with settled cities. Even societies on the move felt the profound need to anchor their lives and their rituals to the immutable cycles of the heavens, etching their understanding of time directly into the earth itself. Across the vast, sun-scorched expanse of Australia, the land itself sings an ancient song of the stars. For the Aboriginal peoples, whose cultural memory stretches back over 65,000 years, the night sky was not a distant spectacle but a living, breathing part of the world. Their astronomical secret was not written in stone but woven into the very fabric of their being, preserved in the intricate knowledge systems known as songlines. These are not mere footpaths or trading routes. A songline is a celestial map made manifest on the earth. Each one tells the story of a creator ancestor who walked across the primordial landscape, singing the world into existence. As these beings journeyed, their actions formed rivers, mountains, and waterholes, and simultaneously, their essence became the stars above. Therefore, every significant landmark on the ground, a particular rock formation or a solitary tree, is intrinsically linked to a specific star or constellation in the sky. To walk the songline is to trace the path of the ancestor across the land while simultaneously navigating the celestial sphere. The story sung at each stopping point describes the feature you are standing on and the star you are standing under, weaving geography and astronomy into a single, unbreakable narrative. This was a practical survival tool of immense sophistication. By knowing the songline, a traveler could cross hundreds of miles of unfamiliar territory, using the stars as a guide and the land as a confirmation. But it was also so much more. The songlines encoded the law, morality, and the sacred history of the people. They were a living library, a legal document, and an astronomical observatory all in one, carried in memory and passed down through countless generations in an unbroken oral tradition. This represents the ultimate expression of a holistic worldview, where the universe is not a collection of separate parts but a single, interconnected whole. The sky was not an abstract chart to be studied. It was a country to be traveled, a story to be lived. It was an astronomy that was not just seen, but walked and sung into existence with every step. The star-covered ceilings of Egyptian tombs are more than a beautiful depiction of the afterlife. They are intricate timekeeping machines, while the grand pyramids aligned with the cosmos on a scale of millennia. These painted vaults served a more immediate, nightly purpose. They are known as decanal clocks, a system that turned the entire night sky into a precise, functional timepiece. The method was elegant in its simplicity. The Egyptians identified 36 specific star groups, or decans, which rose above the horizon at 40-minute intervals throughout the night. Each decan marked the start of a new hour, dividing the 12 hours of darkness with remarkable accuracy. But the system had to account for the shifting sky as the stars rise 4 minutes earlier each night, so the charts on the ceiling were not static pictures, they were detailed manuals. They showed which decan would be visible on which date, allowing a priest to simply look up at the ceiling, then out at the night sky, and know the exact hour. This was not an abstract exercise. It was essential for scheduling the nocturnal rituals that were the lifeblood of the temple. Certain offerings and hymns had to be performed at specific hours to maintain Mot, the cosmic order. The decanal clocks ensured that human activity remained in perfect sync with the divine rhythm of the universe, making the temple a true engine of cosmic harmony. This practical application reveals that ancient astronomy was not just for marking grand cycles, but for organizing the very minutes of sacred time. Göbekli Tepe stands on a barren hilltop in Turkey, a place that should not exist. This vast complex of carved stone circles is 12,000 years old, built by hunter-gatherers a staggering 6 millennia before the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its discovery shattered a foundational belief of history that humans first learned to farm, then settled down, and only later built grand monuments and temples. Göbekli Tepe turns that sequence on its head. Here, the temple came first. The very act of its construction may have been the spark that forced us to invent agriculture, to feed the armies of laborers and pilgrims who gathered there. But what drove these nomadic people to undertake such a colossal project? The answer is staring back at us from the stones themselves. The site is dominated by massive, T-shaped pillars, some weighing over 20 tons. These are not plain monoliths, they are covered in intricate, high-relief carvings of animals. A scorpion crawls up one pillar, a fox prowls across another. Vultures, bulls, and lions are frozen in stone. For decades, these were seen as symbols of a hunter-gatherer spiritual world, totems of power and protection. But a radical new theory proposes they are something far more precise. These animals are not just symbols, they are a star chart. The specific creatures depicted, and their positions on the pillars, are believed to correspond with constellations as they would have appeared in the night sky over Turkey around 9,500 years before the Common Era. The scorpion might be our Scorpius, the bird could be the Cygnus constellation. This transforms our understanding of Göbekli Tepe's purpose entirely. It was not merely a temple for rituals, it was the world's first known astronomical observatory. The very pillars that held up its roof were also holding up a model of the heavens. Imagine the scene. A shaman or early astronomer would stand in the center of a stone circle, surrounded by these towering pillars. By observing which stars rose or set in alignment with a specific carved animal, they could track the passage of the seasons with uncanny accuracy. This knowledge was a matter of life and death for a people dependent on the migration patterns of wild game and the seasonal availability of plants. Göbekli Tepe becomes a permanent communal notebook, a way to encode celestial knowledge into the landscape for future generations. This suggests a breathtaking possibility that the human impulse to build, to create civilization itself, may not have been driven by a need for shelter or storage, but by a profound primal need to understand the cosmos. The stars, it seems, guided us not just across oceans, but out of the wilderness and into the dawn of society. So many monuments, so many stars, yet a single thread seems to connect them all. Having journeyed from the hunter-gatherer circles of Göbekli Tepe to the mechanical genius of the Antikythera Mechanism, we are left with an overwhelming pattern. These 28 secrets are not random anomalies scattered across the globe. They feel like pieces of a grand puzzle, fragments of a lost science that understood the cosmos as a single, interconnected system. The evidence points to a universal human impulse, an almost obsessive need to build our understanding of the heavens directly into the earth. Whether it was the pharaoh's star shafts in Giza or the Aboriginal songlines sung across Australia, the goal was the same: to create a permanent link between our fleeting human existence and the eternal cycles above. This was far more than creating calendars for planting crops. This was a sacred science, a way of ensuring that human society, from its kings to its rituals, remained in perfect harmony with the divine order of the universe. The sheer consistency of this theme, appearing independently across continents and millennia, is staggering. It suggests we are looking at either a fundamental aspect of the human psyche, a deep-seated need to find our place in the cosmos, or something even more profound. Could these similarities be the faint, weathered echoes of a common, archaic source of knowledge, a primordial understanding of the stars that was carried and adapted by cultures as they spread across the world? The patterns whisper a possibility that our ancient ancestors possessed a unified vision of reality, where astronomy, geometry, spirituality, and architecture were not separate disciplines, but different expressions of one sacred truth. The silent stones of antiquity have spoken, and their message is written in the language of the stars. These 28 secrets reveal that our ancestors were not primitive. They were pioneering astronomers, architects, and mathematicians who saw the cosmos as an integral part of their existence. They built calendars in stone, mapped constellations in temples, and tracked celestial cycles with breathtaking accuracy. This knowledge challenges us to reconsider the intellectual capacity of ancient civilizations, not as a step on a ladder of progress, but as a peak of intuitive understanding, a different way of knowing the world that was deeply woven into the fabric of daily life and spiritual belief. The next time you look up at the night sky, remember that you are sharing the same view that inspired these magnificent monuments, a timeless connection between humanity and the universe. You are witnessing the same celestial dance that guided the builders of Göbekli Tepe, that was encoded in the shafts of the Great Pyramid, and that was walked into the land by Aboriginal elders. It is a legacy written not in books but in alignments, a silent testament to a time when humanity looked up and saw not just lights, but a guide, a clock, and a home. If these mysteries captivated you, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more journeys into the unknown.